Okay. So this is the available consciousness. The top is the supraconsciousness, and the below is the subconsciousness. Right? Now, if you see, there is an infinity in this direction, and there is an infinity in the other direction too. The subconsciousness is infinite, the supraconscious is infinite, and this is the finite consciousness. So, all awareness, suppose if a mosquito is biting, how do you know it is a mosquito? Because you already have that knowledge of the mosquito, an insect, whatever that insect is biting you, correct? So, you understand it. So, that is all aware consciousness. This aware consciousness is all about anywhere from your available consciousness into all the way into subconsciousness is all called aware consciousness. And when you are in a meditative state, when you are in a meditative state, you are going into the supraconsciousness, a higher conscious state. That is how it is described as. In this higher consciousness, there is no awareness. So, this is basically called the unawareness. So in a conscious state, you are always expanding in both the directions. That is what the expansion means basically. And all the impressions which are accumulated in the subconscious state, all these impressions have to be removed. These are all impressions. This entire subconsciousness is filled with all our past impressions. I mean, they are useful in a way, and at the same time, it is blocking this expansion. When this is blocked, you cannot expand in both directions. Expansion can only happen in both directions. It cannot happen in, it's not one directional, unidirectional. So that's why these impressions have to be removed. Once this conscious subconsciousness, as it is becoming cleaner and cleaner, it's right now, let's say this portion is cleaner, that means I can expand until this point, and the same in the other direction. So that's why the cleaning process helps us complement our meditative process. In meditation, we are expanding. In cleaning process, we are removing all the impressions. And how are we doing this cleaning? Again, it's a simple process. In the cleaning we are doing, all that we are saying is the mind. See, our only tool available is mind, and the strength of the mind is the ego. Lot of times we think ego as an evil, but ego is not the evil. When the ego associated with too much grossness becomes an evil, it becomes a detrimental for our progress. But egos slowly assigned, attached to this higher remembrance, it gets refined more and more and more. You can never get rid of the ego. As you read that spiritual anatomy book, it will tell you the last thing which will go is ego. Ego is your identity. And then in the last stage, this whole identity becomes that of the Lord, that of the higher. And that means it's in a utter, total, refined state. So we are not trying to get rid of ego or anything. So this is understand we are not dealing with ourselves or with the system using our emotion. We are dealing with the system with the higher consciousness. In higher consciousness, they say, the bliss. The nature of the Atman, the soul, is the bliss. Bliss means zero emotion. It's not exuberant ecstasy or anything of that sort. No ecstasy. It is simple state of being. So in that state of being, you're automatically negating anything, everything which is not identifying with this higher conscious state. So you're automatically in a state of negation as you're going to the higher. Whereas from a traditional, in a normal context, you have to always make that decision, is it good for me or bad for me or things like that. But here we are kind of creating a very natural state where you are moving naturally without any effort on your mind or emotion. Okay. So as we are removing these impressions, our subconsciousness also becomes free. And so what are the impressions, which we have accumulated through our actions, thinking? It's an emotional residue which is created. See, in Lord Krishna's Gita, when he was explaining Karma Yoga, he says, give all the results to me. So people think, oh, if I'm doing this work, I should not be thinking about the salary or fruits of my labor because I'm going to give it to the God. That's not what he's asking, truly speaking. What he's saying is, if when you do anything in remembrance, you are not accumulating these impressions because of that action. That means you are free of the residue which is being created. The karma phala, the fruit of labor, is misunderstood in a way. Every action, every activity creates an impression, but the impressions will not be created if you are in doing the work in remembrance. That means you are not creating any karma for you to carry forward. So it's such a great thing, this remembrance is, right? So when we are not forming these impressions, we are becoming more and more in our subconscious state. This available conscious state is constantly moving, and we are expanding into the supraconsciousness as we are meditating. So that's the whole idea. This is only one conscious state, but the subconscious state is all past. That's why it's subconscious. People think by going into subconscious states, they're going to learn something, but it's not really true. Subconsciousness is all past. All that learning is done already. There's no more new thing to learn, basically. Because of this, these are impressions, we are going through the experiences in life. See, I mean, we always had this difference. Whenever we go to the ice cream shop, myself and my son, we both ask for vanilla, and my wife always goes for the chocolate. So we have to, I always say, if we all order vanilla, we could save some money. We can buy the big, uh, you know, box and bring it home. Because we have two different, I mean, different tastes, we have to buy three or four different types. It's going to cost me more, right? So, but why? I mean, why someone doesn't like chocolate, why someone likes vanilla? It's all because of the impressions we are carrying. All our tastes, all our choices, everything pretty much is driven by our impressions. And these impressions are pretty much guiding us. It is creating all the problems. Because of these impressions through the mind, we are recreating, we are remanifesting all this life patterns. That's why you see in our life, wherever you go, wherever we went, I mean, whatever we do, we are going through the repetitive patterns in life. It's repetitive. You cannot change it. It could not have been played otherwise, even if I want it to be played otherwise. These impressions are pretty much governing our life. So then, how can I change it? The only way I can make some change to my life is not through telling yourself, not through resolving, oh, every new year people make a resolution, I'm going to work out, exercise, health is my priority. And it will fall off by end of January. Not even end of January. In the first week itself, it will fall off. The next Sunday, your resolution is gone for a toss. Why? Because of these impressions are strongly governing us. Once I remove these impressions, I'll have the capacity to mold my life in whichever way I want. That's why cleaning is such an important process. We must follow it every day. And if you are not familiar with the cleaning process, please let me know so I can send you some videos to watch and practice it every day. Without cleaning, you cannot meditate. It's almost impossible. But as we are cleaning regularly, the meditation it complements our meditation process. Meditation becomes easier, and you are able to touch those deeper states if one is very regular in their cleaning. Okay. So this is, a general idea of how consciousness is and how we are expanding into. This is expansion is always in bidirectional. So as the subconscious is getting cleaned and supraconsciousness, then somehow all of these things into merge in refined state. So then you cannot say whether it's a available conscious state or a supraconscious state or a subconscious state. That's a beautiful state to be in. That's when Babuji says reality begins, right? So we have to understand these simple concepts. The process is very, very simple. Meditation, if anyone finds it difficult, it's not because they are doing it wrong, it is because their understanding is wrong. Oh, I'm thinking, I'm not meditating. So should my heart stop when I'm meditating? No, right? So why the mind should stop when I'm meditating? There is no reason for the mind to stop. So mind is doing its business. All my body, entire organs, everything is functioning. My lungs are functioning. My kidneys are functioning. Why not my brain function when I'm meditating? We try to stop it. That is devolutionary. It's not. What should I say? It's not the right thing. We should never stop the flow of life, but integrate that flow into a higher conscious state that happens naturally in meditation. So to become thoughtless is not any great state. If my mind is thinking constantly is also not any great state. Somehow we go beyond this thinking and non-thinking process, then something we experience that is unparalleled to anything we have experienced so far. It's so subtle, simple, serene, nothing great to talk about, but you know it that being in that state, you are beyond everything. You know it by yourself. I mean, nobody has to tell you. So I'll stop here for any comments, questions. All right. So everyone is silent. So let's get into meditation then.